Hello, everyone, and welcome to Café New Canadians. Wherever you're joining us from, we're glad that you could join. I can see people joining us from Dubai. I can see people from Kuala Lumpur. I can see somebody from British Columbia. Thank you for joining us for today's Café New Canadians session. Now, Café New Canadians is your web virtual series where we bring you information, conversations, charts, and topics about newcomer related stuff in Canada, and it is brought to you by New Canadians, our TV and web series that also brings you information on settlement, employment, newcomers to Canada, starting new businesses, entrepreneurship, international students, among others. You can watch us on Omni Television, that we also on our website and our YouTube channel on newcanadians.tv and youtube.com/New Canadians. Now, in today's New Canadians session, Cafe New Canadian session, we are going to talk about the immigrant journey amid the new normal. And we're going to be hearing it from the newcomers to Canada, people who recently came here. My name is Gertrude Tumusime, and today I'm very delighted to host people who are really new. They really came to Canada very recently. They came amid a very tough time. And so we have George Honesty, and he'll be telling us a little bit more about himself. We have Shadil Khan also on the panel today, and we have Fahan and Gunjan Kafil. These ones are a couple, and that is why they're joining from the same computer. And we're very delighted to have everyone. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Hello, Trudy. Thank you for having us.
Hello,
Okay.
Trudy. Thank you.
Yeah, so today the topic is the immigrant's journey the immigrant journey amidst the new normal, and we want to hear from the newcomers. You all know that the past few months have really been tough, like for everybody all over the world, in terms of immigration and people who are coming to Canada. It has been a really challenging journey. I won't say very tough. For some of them, it might have been a little bit easier than the others. But when you arrive in a new country, of course, whatever you have to deal with to integrate into the society, in terms of culturally, in terms of whatever settlement arenas you're going to be going through. And so we want to hear from the newcomers how that has been, and how are things now that everything seems to be moving into a different direction than what it was pre-COVID. At any time during this webinar, please remember to send in your questions. If you're on Zoom, you can type in your questions in the Q&A section. And if you're on YouTube, you can type in the comment section. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gertrude. It's a pleasure to be here.
How are you doing?
We are doing well.
Yeah. Okay, let's start with you, Fahan and Gunjan. Kafil, can you please tell us, when did you arrive?
We arrived on the historic day Prime Minister Trudeau closed the border with US. So it was 18th of March, and we drove almost 2,000 kilometers from Texas to Canada, and we came back through the overland border.
So how was that, coming on the day that they're saying, hey, the borders are closed? Were you like excited? Or
well, it was definitely very nerve-wracking. We didn't have much clarity on how things are going to pan out. All we were concerned about was making back to our new home in time before we get stuck on the other side of the border.
Farhan, did you feel the same?
Yeah, and we didn't know what we had in store here for us. So obviously at the border, the first thing was the immigration officer asked us if we knew that we have to self-isolate for 14 days. And that was news. She handed over a pamphlet to us with all the rules and restrictions. So we did exactly that. We came here, we found the place, and we locked ourselves up for 14 days. We were a bit concerned because while we were traveling, we were on the road, hitting gas stations and cafes and restaurants. So it was a bit, of an issue. We wanted to be sure that we're not contracting or giving the virus to anyone. So thankfully, after 14 days, we were fine. And then, we started thinking about other things to do in life.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Shadil, when did you come?
I was lucky enough to land here in Canada on 7th of March, 2 weeks before the lockdown. So luckily, I I and my wife didn't go through the self-isolation thing, so we were pretty fine. But even then, we stayed in our homes for 14 to 15 days to be extra careful in that case that we don't transfer anything to anybody.
Yeah.
So it was good time. It was good to be here in Canada at that time, just before the lockdown. So we were thinking that if we stayed a bit longer in Pakistan, then we won't be able to come to Canada that easy that we landed here. So we're
Okay.
lucky now.
Lucky for you, you didn't land on the day when the border was locked.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, George, please tell us, share with us when you came to Canada.
So I think I'm the luckiest one today because I landed a little bit earlier. So it was mid of January, 15th of Jan, I landed. But actually it was like 3 days before the first snowstorm, but it was not that bad. And the COVID did not arrive yet to Canada. Maybe it was there, but it was not that. It was not that much as a pandemic known. So it was quite.
Yeah, it was still
quite
biting
lucky to
hard
arrive earlier. Yes.
in other places, not too much in Canada. Yeah, and you know, like whether you arrived in January or you arrived in February or March, when Trudeau said nobody comes in now, I really feel for you guys because you were almost locked out, and it would have
Well,
been
that's not
maybe a
true,
different
Jennifer,
story.
because the Prime Minister announced that they would take Canadians and immigrants. So
Okay.
therefore, and it was only essential travel and no tourists. So we were not a tourist in that sense. Therefore, we were kind of assured that we would get an entry into Canada.
Okay.
And also, thankfully, we were not flying into Canada. So, we were driving back from US. So, therefore, we were not really dependent on the air flight schedules. So, in that
Okay.
sense, we got a little bit of, leverage there.
Okay, so, and we know that since whether you arrived in January, like I said, I was saying earlier, or February or March, when things get really, really bad, for every newcomer, it takes a little bit of time. Maybe it might take anywhere between 2 months, 3 months, or between 2 to maybe 6 or even a year for you to start now getting into the community, because it's very important for you to first establish yourself and settle down in terms of housing, find a good job or find a job to survive, or work on your every other aspect of life in the new land. So I would like to understand, how was that, or how has that been? Because we can see that you all arrived still in the same time, and we've not really hit like the 6-month mark where you would have been doing a lot of these things. So how has that been for you, George?
So for me, when I arrived, I was a little bit prepared, and I was lucky enough to stay the first 3 months at my friends, and I got full support from them. I got to know more the country, and I even was lucky because Toronto was all of it opened. So there was no lockdown. So I was going out, I was discovering the city, and at the same time, I had a place to stay in. But then when the lockdown happened, I was still at my friends, but there were no places to go, and we had to stay at home. And the problem started then, because no jobs, and even my part-time job, I was not able to go there, and we had to move everything online. And still, even my university courses was moved online, and it was a little bit challenging.
Okay. And what about you, Shadil?
I would say that before coming to Canada, there was a perception when I was planning to move to Canada that things will not easy that it should be, but there would be a struggle. So I was pretty prepared that there would be a struggle for me, especially in terms of my career. That I was coming from a journalism background. That is a whole new different scenario here in Canada. So I was preparing myself for my career, and especially Gerard, being my mentor, helped me a lot in that case. That how you are going to present yourself here in Canada. The big difference was language, the press style. So I was preparing myself for my career as well, or for the settlement. There were so many pre-arrival services being offered to me. So I've went through some of the services. They also helped me to prepare myself in the normal situations, that it will take 3 to 4 months to settle down. But once I landed here, it was altogether different scenario. Uh, uh, in terms of career, in terms of settlement, luckily, I stayed, me and my wife stayed with my friend's family. So first 2 months were okay enough for us. Then we decided to move to another place, a short-term place, because things related to uh, apartments and settlement also were very difficult in this scenario, in this pandemic. So
So obviously,
I was,
so how were
yeah, I
you?
was prepared enough to get myself settled here.
Okay, so sorry, I was kind of interrupting, but I wanted to find out that you arrived 2 weeks before, everything became really bad in Canada, so they had to
Yes.
lock down, and those few weeks, and you spent them at your friend's house, but then how are you able to now go on and look for your own place, amidst this whole thing everywhere is locked down? How was the house search for you?
Yes, that's a good question. And initially, we decided to stay at home for 15 to 20 days to make sure ourselves that we are fine and everything is fine. Then ultimately, the first hit we had due to this COVID was we won't be able to get our licenses, the driving licenses. So for that, we were also not able to buy a car as well. So I decided that we should move to a place where the commutation would not be a problem. So we decided to move to downtown. So uh, for the apartment search, first we went to some of our friends to suggest some of the places to us, but they were also locked down in their home, so they won't be able to uh, guide us regarding the house search. And then the sites, the social media also helped me find a place. But the main problem was that they were not willing to show us the place. For that, they were saying us that you can come to our place like this, that everything is locked down, and people would say that why you are coming to us at this situation. So stay for a while, or you can watch the pictures and you can go through the virtual tour and all. But as the house is very important thing, so until unless you don't see the place, that you don't get an idea that what's going to happen and what is this place like. So that was the big hit, the biggest problem we had, that we were not welcomed to show the to the showings of the apartments and stuff.
So you kind of had to look online, look at the rooms and see, and just kind of make a blind blind kind of selection. Oh, okay. But Farhan and Gunjan might be having a different experience with house hunting. How was it for you?
We must say that in this dark cloud of COVID, there were a few silver linings for us. As a consequence of the ban on or the restrictions on air travel, a lot of Airbnbs also came into the marketplace for short-term rentals. And we really found a very beautiful, very comfortable place, very close to the lakeshore. The landlady is also a very extremely nice lady. And her family, they were so welcoming. Of course, we also had to, like Shardil, look at the pictures and make a decision. We took a leap of faith and we went with it. Because it was a short-term rental, we were willing to take that chance, and I think we got lucky, and we are able to now live in a very beautiful home with all the conveniences that we could think of. So it did help us in easing into living in Canada. It's close to the lakeshore, so whenever possible we would step out and walk, socially distant of course, and grocery stores are also nearby, so we would do our small shopping exercises once every 2 weeks and just take what we needed. So it did help us a lot to kind of settle and ease into during the COVID period.
Okay. George, did you have a very good experience house hunting? Oh, you actually mentioned that you stayed at a friend. So are you able during this time, I know things have been locked down and it's been really hard for some people. So have you been able to like kind of find a good place?
So I was staying at my friend's place for 3 months and I was staying in Pickering. So I was using the GO train to go and check the listings and I was able to see them. And when I found my apartment, I asked them if I can pay in advance, like let's say 12 months in advance to be able to rent it. They did not accept. So I had to have a guarantor to be able to rent the house. And I was lucky enough also to have a guarantor. And this is how I rented my house. And the only problem that I faced is I was not able to go and bring the furniture. So I had to order everything online, like from A to Z, everything related to the house. I had to order it online and make sure it arrives on time when I moved in. And I was lucky enough that this is what happened. And now I'm settled in my place and it's not that bad. I mean, it was a little bit of struggle, but it was not that bad.
Yeah, but it must have been suddenly a very frustrating experience to have to do everything online. And
Exactly.
yeah, and let's talk about accessing government services when you arrived, for all of you, like when you arrived and accessing government services. Farhan, how was it for you guys when you went to get your health cards and all these things that you need?
Right. So obviously, and we were very mindful that we were arriving in a COVID world, although Canada was really not that affected compared to our neighbor down south. But like I said, we were traveling through the US, and our key concern was that we should be able to get our health cards as quickly as possible so we can consult, if need be, a doctor. So, like I said, we had to self quarantine for 14 days in the beginning, and then right after, on day 15, we were heading to Service Ontario, trying to file an application. The good news was that because of COVID, the government had removed the 3-month waiting period, which is the norm here. So in this new normal, it was like you go there, put in your application, and there you go. We got our temporary health papers the same day. There was a time I was not feeling well. So I did consult a doctor. I didn't have a family doctor, which is, of course, something that you need to have once you're settled in. But I did consult over the phone. I was given medical advice and, prescribed some tests. Thankfully, everything came out okay. So that was a big relief that the government reduced the waiting time to 0.
So COVID wasn't that very, very bad after all.
Oh, no, certainly not. Like, obviously, there are these little things to cheer about, So, and like Sherdal said, driver's license could be a concern. We have friends who've come around this time. Obviously, they are struggling as well because the driving test centers or the learning centers are not open.
Yeah.
Thankfully for us, we're living, close to downtown. So we have public transport. We take streetcars and, public transport as much as we like to go. And frankly, we have not gone, so far away as to really be bothered about, taking the GO train. So all in all, it has been nice. I would really say the thing that we've missed out on, fortunately or unfortunately, is the unemployment benefits that the government is providing to people who've kind of been affected by the pandemic.
We are going to get there. Just hang on. Hang on there. Hang on there. But first, let's hear from Shadil. Did you have to have any trouble getting or accessing any of these government, issued documents? Like, say your card or your PR card or anything like that?
No, I would say that in terms of my SIM card and as far as our accounts are concerned, bank accounts are concerned, we went to, first of all, went to Service Canada, and it was very quick for us to get the SIM card and stuff, everything. And bank accounts, we online booked the appointment and went to the bank and get the banks and bank accounts and everything done. So that in that case, we were lucky that we were a bit early from the lockdown. So we had our bank accounts and everything. The main reason, the main problem was the driving license, that everything was closed, the test centers and everything. So it also gave us some time to study the driving handbook so that we can go for the.
When you're so ready.
Yes, so we go for the test and we'll pass from straight away, pass from the first attempt. So that was a good thing that we had some time to go through that handbook, because I was coming from a country that has a different driving rules and regulations.
That's true.
They have the right hand drive. Here we have the left hand drive. So it was a big difference. So I was thinking that once I will be passing this test, and then soon after I'll be getting the driving license. Meanwhile, I was using, just like Farhan and Gunjan said, that in downtown you're very well directed towards everything.
Yeah. So you
cars and subways and everything. So
yeah, and
for the traveling.
And plus there wasn't very many places to go to really. So you had to really like stay home and just stay calm. So let's go to one of the most important things. We all know that employment is one of the most important things. Breaking into the labor market in Canada, as soon as you land, you're really looking for a job, because guess what? You need to survive. Unless you already came here and you already have a job prior to your arrival here. So let's hear about from you guys what your experience has been with your job, your different respective job searches. George, would you want to talk about that?
So when I knew that I'm coming to Canada, and even before I got the visa, what I did, I reached out to Career Coach, and I would like to say hi to Miss Daisy Wright. We started working together before I arrived to Canada, and that was for more than 6-7 months. We just worked on my resume. And during the process, Daisy Wright introduced me to Gerard Kelechian, who became my best friend in Canada. And before arriving to Canada, I was always talking to Gerard, and we had a small plan when I arrived to start working with him. And this is what happened. When I landed to Canada, on the second week, I started working with New Canadians as a marketing and advertising and partnership manager, as a part-time, of course. And it was the best experience I ever had before closing the country, because we were having fun, we were producing, we were working on New Canadians, and I was gaining more experience and I was enjoying time, and I met the New Canadians team. So that was, I think, that the best thing that ever happened to me. And at the same time, before arriving, I reached out to a lot of people, and because everyone said you really need to connect with people, you really need to go to events. And I was lucky enough when I arrived to go to networking events, to meet a lot of people, to know a lot of people from my own country who lived here and who have been here for so long. And I even managed to get a job, but I lost it in the last minute because of COVID. So before getting the job, the company stopped hiring, and they said that they're not going to proceed with the position. And that was in March. But again, during the pandemic, I kept applying for a job, but that was only online without networking. And it became very difficult because the job postings, they decreased like by 90%. So you only see 10% of jobs, and they are repeating the same jobs that they were posted 3-4 months ago.
Yes.
So you knew that these jobs are no longer there and no one was hiring. So that was the struggle.
Yeah, and it's been a real struggle for you, Fahan and Gunjan. Has it been any different with your job search? How is it going? Or
So as soon as I came, I had a few friends whom I know from my earlier career, and they had told me about Access Employment, and they asked me to investigate if there are any courses that are of interest. I did find one course on marketing and sales, but unfortunately for me, it was already booked up. So they actually then spoke to me about this new program which is focused on women. And I was lucky enough to be part of their third cohort, and for 6 weeks they helped me and 20 other women to really become more presentable for interviews, helping us with the resume and being interview ready, so to say. So that
okay.
ended last month in May, and so it's just been 4 weeks since I've actually started applying for jobs. And like George mentioned that the postings are not too many, so I haven't had any breakthrough yet. But I'm hopeful that with the economy reopening, there should be more opportunities sooner than later.
Yeah, okay. Fahan, can you share with us how yours has been?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm an engineer with a construction real estate background. So when I looked around for these pre-arrival courses, there was not a lot of bridging programs available for my trade. So obviously, I settled in to kind of study and research online and know the marketplace in Canada. I did a lot of networking, connected with a lot of people in the industry during this time. Did some information sessions to find out, what's the current trends in the market. Other than that, like George said, I have been looking out for job postings online, and some jobs come back again. And then there have been instances when I've tried to apply, and it takes you to the website and says the job no longer exists, whereas it's still listed on the job boards. The other challenge that is obvious is there are a larger number of applicants per job, and you can see on LinkedIn, for example, the number of applicants, and then that's not the only job board where the job is posted. So you can imagine it's manifold competition these days.
Yes.
So like Gunjan and the others in the panel, I've been kind of honing my skills, doing online courses, studying a lot. My industry thankfully is not that affected by the pandemic. Construction has been classified as a critical industry, so it's been open all this while. But obviously, there's not a lot of hiring going on. I think that will change soon when people start going out. Everything is virtual, but the discussions have helped because people are kind of having a bit more time than usual. So they've been more receptive to taking information sessions and talking to me at length about the industry and advising me on the courses to take, the kind of certifications I should look for. My work deals a little bit on the legal side as well. So they've advised me on the kind of credentials that I should build on before I enter the market. It has kept me busy and quite excited. I would probably not have had this opportunity of learning and interacting with so many people had
Yes.
had I come in the non-COVID time where everyone would be busy, and I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
so
a,
that's a blessing.
you guys seem to have had like a lot of blessing in disguise,
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
very
for
thankful.
COVID-19 for you guys has been a little bit different. I mean, I've had stories and everyone is frustrated by how things are slow, they're not working out, it's
Yeah.
all COVID time and house hunting is hard, everything is hard. But for you guys, it seems to have worked out. You're going to later share with us what some of your tips have been. But first, let me first speak to Shadil and find out what he has been up to in his
Yes,
professional development.
as everyone was preparing before coming to Canada, I was also preparing myself. And thankfully, Gerard was my mentor. I got from Canada Infonet, and he guided me because he is also from the same background. He went through everything that a journalist from the other country who lands here in Canada goes through. So he helped me to prepare my resume, and look for the jobs that that would be available for me when I land here. And he also introduced me to this bridging program, and I would say that he was the first one who mentioned me this bridge to employment to media and communication bridging program. So I was preparing for that as well, that if I won't be able to get the job, then I have to study for 3 to 6 months or maybe 8 months, so that I can get into the industry easily. And this transformation was very essential at that moment, I thought. So when I landed here, I started working on my Canadian resume. Some of my friends helped me in preparing my resume as Canadian style, because in Pakistan or everywhere other than Canada, they have altogether different kind of resumes. You have a picture on that, you have everything on that. There's so many formats, and but here in Canada, that is very simple, so that ATS can view your resume. The ATS, the term, once I came here, and then I came to know about this ATS kind of thing. So I was preparing myself, and this bridging program is I would say that it's a breakthrough for me. Because I was thinking, so how to equip myself with the language and press style. So this bridging program, Sukhjit Singh Aluwalia also suggested me this program. So I applied on this program, and luckily, fortunately, I got the admission in this program. And from May 4th, this program is going on, and soon we'll be completing our third month of courses, and then we'll go for the job placement. So Daniel Wong is now working with us from this program towards our job placement and LinkedIn profile, how to connect people. And the biggest advantage in this program is that I was connected to so many people here in Canada from my field or not from my field. So to connect people, to get the network is the most essential thing in Canada. It's I would say that is better than the job hunt, that you first go for the networking stuff and then go for the job hunt, then you would be able to get some jobs. Because before coming to Canada, everyone was saying that in Canada you'll find the job just due to networking and all that.
Yeah.
There's a hidden job market, and you only would be able to explore that once you go build your network. So I was able enough to build my network, and still it's going on. So I'm pretty hopeful that I'll get a job very soon.
Okay, yeah. Quickly, has it been any easier? I know you didn't really go out to networking events in person before when you just arrived. So pretty much everything has been online, including your course, including meeting people. How has that experience been?
People say that it's difficult if you are going online, but I would say that it's kind of a simple thing, that in this scenario, everyone can spare 15 to 20 minutes online, because going to a place, going to an event it's a difficult task, and people sometimes hesitate to meet you. But thanks to Zoom and other platforms like that, they are available for 15 to 20 minutes. Just they can spare some time. So this technology also helped us in networking as well. So it was good that all the other things that are the silver linings of this pandemic, this online scenario, the online coffee chats, and also silver lining in this scenario.
Okay. Oh, thank you for sharing. Well, now we're going to take some questions from the audience, and then we'll later come back to talk about the other bits of our lives. So we have a question from Siddhartha, and Siddhartha, I'm not very sure if it's he or she, but they're asking, did any of you face subtle racism as a newcomer in Canada? Does it help to have relatives and connections in Canada from a settling down perspective? So it seems that there are two questions in one. So we'll have anyone has had an experience with subtle racism. Do you want to share about that?
I want to go first, and the Black Lives Matter movement. I also covered that movement, and I want to say that in this scenario, when I came here, the journalist in me didn't go to the isolation stuff. I went to some of the events, and I happened to cover those events. I went to the Black Lives Movement protest here in Canada. I covered that in Toronto. So I would say that I didn't go through any racism kind of scenario, but as far as the experiences of other people, I would say that it does exist, and sooner or later, I hope that it would completely vanish, but it does exist. So we can all help to eradicate this mindset, this
Yeah.
systemic racism that exists all over the world, not specifically in Canada or US, or it exists everywhere. So we can fight together this systemic racism. So I would say that it does exist.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. Anybody has had an experience of any subtle racism at all? Or do you?
Yeah, I want to share that, well, it's too early for us because we haven't really gone out and met people. So,
Yes.
to say that it has not happened or it has happened would be a very premature answer. At the
Yes.
same time, I would like to share that, people in Canada have been very willingly receptive to us. The lady whose home we rent out, she has opened her hearts to us. If we need small things, she makes sure that, we are taken care of. And likewise, we get greeted by people on the streets as well, strangers or otherwise. So so far our experience in Canada has been really nice, and we are yet to see any racism directly put out to us. But yeah, at the same time, we've been here only 3 months, so
Yeah,
we
it's
have to.
very early to tell.
Yes.
That's true. Yes. Okay. So she's also asking, does it help to have relatives and connections? I know all of you mentioned that you landed and went to your friends. Does it help in a perspective of settling down? Fahan?
Certainly, yeah. I mean, you are kind of, and as an immigrant, you're uprooting your whole lifestyle and your habitat and coming to embrace Canada and call it home. So it definitely helps to have people here. I mean, obviously, George has been the luckiest, I think, amongst us. Cheerdal as well. We have lots of friends here from our previous life in Dubai and India. And of course, our interactions professionally as well. So, I mean, at least for the mental well-being and to unravel the mysteries of a newcomer's life in Canada, that certainly helps. Even if you don't land a job or you don't find the best places to hang out, that still is a blessing. And we're all beneficiaries to that. Thanks to people like Jared and other networks with that, embrace and support new Canadians and, kind of help them integrate into the society. So friends and family and the extended network certainly helps.
I
Yes,
would like
but
to add that there is a reason the Canadian government gives additional points for for family and relatives in the immigration, because they are aware that socially and psychologically having someone of your own relative, either friends or family, definitely helps in integrating into the society.
yeah, it is very good for our adaptability here because I mean, you don't start from scratch like a person who doesn't know nobody. So another anonymous attendee is asking, what is the funniest networking mishap, virtual or in person, that happened with you after reaching Canada? Any of you who's been networking online? Shadil, that sounds like you. Has
I
there been
didn't get the
any?
question. I didn't get the question. Can you please
What
repeat
is
it?
the funniest networking mishap that has happened? They ask virtual or in person, but I know you haven't done any in-person networking, if I'm
Yes.
not wrong.
They are asking about the mishap.
The mishap, any mishap, MISHAP.
No, I would say no, no mishap. But sometimes people are reluctant to talk to you. But there are some techniques. There are some things that you can incorporate to start a conversation here in Canada, because things are different here.
Yeah.
For example, I would say that people are uh, they want their first name to be if you want to call them from their first name. So there are some nitty-gritties of talking to a person for a coffee chat or for everything that you want to network with. So things are a bit different here. So but with a with a good networking techniques, you can contact them, and sometimes they are willing to talk to you, sometimes they are not. Then it's always good to come again, and after some time again knock at their doors, and maybe that time they open the door. So keep on
Yeah.
trying. So it wasn't the mishap with me. So
Okay, thank you.
I
Thank
would
you.
add something on this question if you want.
Yes, go on, George.
I've went to live networking events and they were mostly focusing on digital marketing, and strange, nothing mishap happened, but strange things that people that goes to those events, they don't have to be necessarily related to the marketing or to the digital part. I met a lot of people in the bank sector, even people who help others getting mortgages, or some people, they have their own businesses, they want to promote their own businesses. So in the networking event, you will see a lot of people with different backgrounds, and they have different jobs, and they would be still interested in the topic that they are visiting.
Yeah.
So this is what happened in most of my networking events.
So is that to say that you ended up somehow landing the wrong kind of networks, or?
I won't say wrong. Now, if I want to take a mortgage, I know who I should call.
But you didn't. That was like, you go for water and then you find them serving juice, and then
Yes.
Anyway, that's a good one. So Asma is asking, is it good to move to Canada? Is it a good time to move to Canada? And which area in Ontario is best to live in? I know all of us must be in Ontario. Yeah, so Asma wants to know, is it a good time to move to Canada? Honestly, you people have been in this time and you have had the experiences, so she wants to know from you.
I can answer.
Yeah, George, go ahead.
So there are different aspects to this question. Weather-wise, it's very good to come now. It's summer, the weather is amazing. She will have fun, she will enjoy the weather. Work-wise, business, they are starting to pick up. So you will see more postings, but I assume by September, the postings will be more than now. So
Yeah.
it's good. And I think the government now doesn't allow people to land, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I think by September, it would be better for them if they want to come. And it's always to come to Canada in any place, but they should know coming to Toronto is different than coming to another part in Ontario, because it depends on the expenses. It depends on each city, because it's well known Toronto is expensive more than any other city which is on the suburbs of Toronto or outside Toronto. So she really needs to know that and make up her mind and know from where she wants to land and where she wants to live and look for a job as well.
Okay.
I would like to also add to this question.
Yes.
Like Asma, we also had the same question when we were planning to move to Canada. Where in Canada should we move and live in? Because it's such a vast country, and the beauty of British Columbia and the charm of Vancouver, or the thriving art and culture and the food scene of Toronto. It was a very difficult choice to make. So what we did is we actually spent some time traveling around Canada and actually exploring the provinces from Ontario all the west, all the way to the west to British Columbia, and all the way up to Northwest Territories. So we traveled around and took a decision looking at the climate, the culture, the job opportunities, and we arrived at this decision that we would like to live in and around the Greater Toronto area.
If I may add something,
Yes, Shadil.
Gunjan and George covered everything, but the new normal, I would say that it would be that if you are coming to Canada at this point of time, then I guess initially, before this COVID situation, it almost took 3 to 6 months, maybe more than that, for the people to get settled here in Canada, to get jobs and everything. But now there would be a bit of delay in that. Maybe it will take 6 to 8 months, or maybe 10 to 12 months. So it would be the new normal.
Yeah.
That is my opinion. Maybe it doesn't happen. So
Obviously,
this is
things
why I
are
want
changing.
to keep yourself prepared for every situation if you are coming to Canada at this point of time, or maybe later in this year. So things would take time now.
Okay, let us hear from Siva. Siva says they are planning to move to Saskatchewan by August 2020. And they're asking if they still need to self-quarantine, if they need a self-quarantine plan. I don't know if any of us can answer that question. But if so, how can we make it from here? Also advise us about booking our temporary residence. We do not have any friends or relatives in that province. Okay, so first of all, I think there's a lot of information on canada.ca, Siva, if you're listening. So I think the best information about self-quarantine would be found there. About advice finding temporary residence, can Fahan and Gunjan share?
Well, we what we found out was that there were a lot of units that were earlier being rented out as part of Airbnb, which were being put into the market as short-term rentals. So, and we are also mindful that this was just at the start of COVID, and we were able to do that. But we are not quite sure of what the Airbnb rules or regulations are like for Saskatchewan. Maybe
Yeah.
they can look up sites like Kijiji
Okay, good.
or other websites which are offering short-term rentals that can be booked from remotely.
Yes,
I'd like
George.
to add to
Okay.
that. Sorry. Yes, like it's simple. I would suggest Google it. There are lots of real estate rental sites, including Padmapper, Zillow, you name it. It's easy to find online, and a lot of these, as Sheryl earlier mentioned, are doing virtual viewing. There are 360-degree views. Whilst we landed here, we wanted to look for apartments. Most people move from personal showings to online showings, and that would help. So no matter where you are in the world, you can look it up online, get a 360-degree tour, see the floor plans, compare the rates on different sites, and that should help to find out a good spot somewhere.
Yeah, so George and Shadil, I'd like you to share, were there any specific websites that you used online? Because now these people are not yet in Canada. So would you point them to any specific websites that you used to find your
Yes,
places?
I would suggest that Kijiji is a good website, or there are some applications as well. Realtor.ca, that application shows you the map and the listings, everything. And definitely Saskatchewan, there would be lots of postings over there. So
Okay.
these are the things. Go on the Kijiji or Realtor.ca, you would be able to find
Yeah,
places. And
George?
put your preferences over there, what kind of place you want, so you'll be getting the result.
Okay, thank you.
So
George?
for me, again, knowing other people, and I have a friend who's a realtor, so my friend helped me just find my listing.
Okay.
What I would suggest, apart from searching on the websites, they can even look for Airbnb, and even they can just reach out to realtors. They can help them. And one more thing just to mention, when they just first land, I'm talking about, let's say Toronto, they really need to know that it will not be easy for them to rent for like full year immediately, because a lot of factors come in, such as they need to have a credit score, they need to have a job. And if they don't have this one, they need to bring in a guarantor. And if there is no guarantor and it's not related to a property management, then they might negotiate to pay in advance 6 months. So that's an option also. It might not be acceptable. It depends also on the law where they will land. So they really need to take all these factors into consideration before they decide if they want to rent for like a full year. Maybe they should rent Airbnb for some time to discover the area and know exactly what are the rules before they just put down any down payment before they arrive.
That is a great thing. Thank you for
I want
sharing.
to add, Trudy, one thing. The prime focus of ours was to first get a job, so that in that case you get an idea that in which place your workplace is nearer. So first of all, go for the short-term rentals, Airbnb, and then if you get a job, then go for the long-term rentals.
Yeah, for these particular ones, they seem to kind of know where exactly they are going. And so I guess that will also guide them. So let's hear another question from Alina. They say, what do you say are the most important actions to take and to avoid job-wise for someone arriving next month in Toronto? Anybody? Yeah. George?
Don't put high expectation. Just accept the fact that it might take 1 day to get a job, and it might take 6 months to get a job or 1 year to get a job. The only factor that she needs to worry about, or he needs to worry about, is just to have enough money to sustain themselves until they find a job. That's the only reason.
Okay, thank you so much, George. And that takes us to this question that I wanted to ask, and brings me back to Fahan's submission before. You missed out on the government's CERB. Okay, yeah, that's really sad. So how have you been doing financially? I know you are in a bridging program, Shadil. I know Fahan and Gunjan are really not working. And then I know George is also working part-time and also studying. So how has it been missing out on that government support and, you know, surviving in these hard times financially?
Okay.
Fahan.
Yeah, so obviously, like we know, the world is in lockdown and things are only slowly opening up. So again, silver lining, since we're not going out, we're not eating out, we're not partying, we're not going to the movies, we're not hosting friends, that helps. We've also been prudent in our eating habits. You know, let's say we go and shop healthy food, cook at home. You know, that saves. I mean, it's a well-known fact in Canada that, you know, you could buy grocery for a week at the cost of eating out for a night. Okay. So it's prudent. Other than that, you know, we have savings to fall back to. So we have both been working for a long time and, you know, put away some cash. Yeah. As George said, you know, it may take some time. So you come with that mentality and don't be, you know, doing things that will blow away the money. Yeah. Be wise in your expenditure. Keep a track of how much money is flowing out your hands. It's very important because, you know, we all come from different countries. Some have better incomes than Canada, some have less. And there's also this currency exchange component. We often do the calculations later, and then we realize we've spent so much or so less. So it's always wise to keep a good handle on things and save cash for the rainy day, especially in this time. You never know how long you could have to sustain on just your savings.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Like Shardil said, you know, like in the past, what would take 4 to 6 months can take up to 10 to 12 months. So we need to really think about our lifestyle from that point of view.
Okay. And I want to add something. Farhan very finely covered everything related to finances, but the most important thing in this scenario is the mental health condition. So do not compromise on your mental health issues. If you are having such kind of stress and depression, go for the consultation and prepare yourself mentally that this is going to happen. And Farhan and everyone here in this panel also working on their upscaling their skills. So this is the good time, right time to upgrade your skills, go for the courses, certifications. In this scenario, that would definitely help you in later times. So
Okay, thank you,
keeping
Shadil.
the finances and then keeping your mental health.
Yeah, we had a few sessions. We had a session on mental health before, so you can keep an eye on our page and be able to actually get like a full, webinar on that. So thank you so much for bringing that up. Let's hear from an anonymous attendee who says, "Hello, everyone. Me and my wife moved to Canada last week. Ooh, welcome. And we are currently self-quarantined. Our main concern is to get the health card and seen as soon as we're out. My question to the panel is, without a proof of address, did you guys face any problems applying SIN and health card? I think Farhan and Gunjan might have a good experience on that.
Right, so I'll take that. For the SIN number, you can apply it at the airport, at the immigration. You don't necessarily need to state an address, if I remember correctly. And if you need to, then in that case, you could give the address of a friend or an Airbnb that you have pre-rented. And if nothing comes to work, I'm willing to offer my address to someone in need, because this is difficult times and we're all in this together. So, they can happily contact us. Other than that, for the health card, yes, you need a physical address. But like I said, the good thing is the government is relaxing the requirement for a 3-month waiting period. So, when they arrive, and depending on the quarantine condition, once they're able to go out, they should go and visit Service Ontario and get their health card. So they're prepared for any emergency if that happens. They will need a physical address at that time. And I've talked about how they can get an address.
What I read from the questions that they've already arrived last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they arrived last week.
So I would understand that they are living somewhere, and that could be the address that they can use for in the interim. And as soon as they have a more permanent space to live, they can update the address in the government systems.
They can do it online, right? Yeah,
it's online, so changing addresses are not such a big task.
Okay, so we have a few questions here, but they're related to what we already spoke about the job search. We spoke about that. I guess we'll let that go. And then we have somebody asking why you moved from the US. I mean, a few people moved to the US because US is better salaries and so on. So why exactly? They're kind of asking why exactly you moved. Briefly.
Yeah, very briefly. We didn't really live in the US. Like we said, we came to Canada last year and we wanted to explore the country. So in the interim, we also went and saw some parts of US. We were still there when COVID happened, and we had to return to Canada, in the wake of this crisis.
To add to that, it's about travel more than living. So we were traveling through the US, and then we came to Canada to live here.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. And the other question was about networking, which we already, I think Shadil really shared extensively about that. So we'll also let that go because of time. And Siddhartha is asking how the networking will change in post-COVID world, considering the hesitation across the board to meet people. You can also go back to a webinar that we held some time back. You should see that about networking. It was really thorough, and you'll be able to find a few answers there. Please feel free to check our channel. And that's all the questions we had from the audience. Unfortunately, it looks like we are running out of time, okay? Okay, so briefly, any last piece of advice to anyone who is arriving in the new normal and how life is going to or how life might affect us all who are coming to Canada during this time? A parting shot from everybody.
Yeah, I would like to say that, yes, moving to a new country is hard. In normal circumstances, it's hard. And in COVID times, it will be especially harder. But it is very encouraging that the government of Canada is doing a lot of work through employment agencies, settlement agencies, and channels like New Canadians, which is helping immigrants and new Canadians to really integrate into the society. So it's only a matter of time. Someone told us that the first 2 to 3 years feel harder because you're trying to get all your systems in place, but once you're through that, it becomes a lot easier. And the beautiful Canadian landscape, the summers, and lots of activities in winter really make it a great country to call home.
Okay, thank you so much, Gunjan. George, do you have any parting shots for our viewers?
Yes, I would really encourage everyone who started this process to carry on. I've been here for 5 months and during the pandemic, and no, I have zero regret that I came here. It's
Okay.
worth a shot. It all depends on your expectations and how you deal with all this. It's not easy in the beginning, but it's how you deal with it, and never give up because it's worth it. And I would like to also say one thing. I would like to thank Café New Canadian team. I want to thank you, Trudy. I want to thank the people working behind, Gerard, the editorial, Shruti, social media, Dave. Thank you all for making this happen. I hope I did not forget anyone.
It's certainly a good platform for us to really talk and have conversations that matter to us. And Shadil, any parting shots to our attendees?
Yes, I would say that prepare yourself in terms of your finances and in terms of job search and networking. It would take time. And secondly, the most important thing to equip yourself with the courses and knowledge. And also, whenever you go out, go with the instructions of the government that you have a mask, you have gloves, you have sanitizer with you. To in this new normal, you have to, if you are going to a bank, going to a restaurant to pick up food, to pick up grocery. So first of all, protect yourself according to the instructions of the government. Follow them, and then you can save
Everybody has
yourself
to
and
stay safe.
everybody else else.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, certainly. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Shadil. Thank you, Fahan
Thank
and
you, Ray.
Gunjan. And thank you,
you, Trudy.
George. Thank you, everyone who is attending this virtual webinar. And we are on Café New Canadians, and we'll continue to bring you these conversations because they matter to all of us. And next week, you can look out, keep an eye on our social media channels, on our website, and we'll be bringing you something to do with success of immigrant women. So do keep an eye for the details about that. You can find us on New Canadians on Facebook, on Twitter, New Canadians, and on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and on Telegram. Do be sure to subscribe to our newsletter where you can get all the information and resources on immigration, settlement, employment, education, and small businesses. We also have a new corner, the International Students Corner. So do also direct your friends to that. So you can subscribe from our website, from our YouTube channel. And also, if you're on Zoom, please feel free to just kind of fill in a small survey to help us improve these sessions. Tell us what you would want to hear. Tell us what topics you want us to speak about. Tell us how we are doing and where we can improve, because we would like to bring it to you in the best form that you deserve. So thank you, everyone who has been here. My panelists, thank you so much. It was a very insightful conversation.
It was
and
pleasure having you.
And thanks everyone who has been on YouTube and on Zoom, and have a very good night.